Welcome to the No Guts, No Galaxy podcast number 193. I'm your host and resident wizard, Daeron. Support for this podcast is brought to you by our patrons and Twitch subscribers. Your support is ever appreciated and literally keeps this content on the air. Would you like to support the podcast? Become a Twitch sub today at twitch.tv/NGNGTV or find out more about becoming a patron of the podcast at patreon.com/NoGutsNoGalaxy. Well, I'm pretty excited about today's podcast. It features my good buddy Joe, or as many of you know him, Apostle OFC. He is a wonderful streamer. He is a Battletech and MechWarrior fan. He's a Star Wars fan. He's a musician. There's lots to know about Joe, and I finally got the chance to sit down with him and have an extended conversation. Usually we're like, two ships passing in the night at MechCon or whatever. So now is a time to learn more about this wonderful member of the community, Apostle OFC. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
And now for something completely different.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi. Welcome to the future.
Remember, no guts, no galaxy.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm very excited for today's podcast. Today's guest, most of you probably know him already or know of him by his Twitch handle. It's Apostle OFC. Apostle is also known as Joe, my buddy Joe. I've known him since I think 2013. Joe can correct me if I'm wrong here, but that was the MechWarrior Online release party in San Francisco. I guess I knew you a little bit before that because obviously you came up there to see us and be part of the whole thing. But anyway, I've known you for a long time and always a super good guy. If you haven't checked him out, you can check out his stream at twitch.tv/apostle_OFC. And Joe, how you doing, man? Welcome.
Thanks, man. It's cool to be here. Finally, part of the NGNG machine I've been following for so long. You are right. 2013 is when we officially met.
Yeah.
But we had been playing MechWarrior with you guys and watching your streams prior to that. So.
Right. Dude, you've been a part of the NGNG machine for a long time because actually at that party, you kind of volunteered.
Yeah, you guys put us to work.
Yeah,
cool.
so you were NGNG crew for a day. Anyway, super good to have you here. And finally, right? And
thank you, man. Yeah.
What I want to do, because we know each other. We're obviously when you meet people, you either click or you don't. Sometimes
right.
Maybe it takes work to become friends with them. But I feel like immediately we clicked. And it was like we were friends forever. Sure. And but kind of part of that almost made it so I didn't super get to know you. I know things about you, and we'll get into that. About who Joe is and what you do and so forth. But we haven't hung out for extended periods, or I haven't been down to where you're at, or you come visit my house. So in a way, we kind of know each other on a surfacey level. It goes deeper. You're a good friend and I care about you, but we just don't know maybe necessarily a lot of details. So I was excited when I thought about having you on here. So again, thank you for being here.
No, man, thanks for having me. You're right in that where the friendship was almost instant, but we haven't had that, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my bro time kind of a thing where schoolmates, you've grown up together, what's going on. So
yeah, it's usually during streams or during MechCon when I'm working, and so just not a ton of time to hang out. Whereas
sure.
If we lived in the same area, we'd be going to see Star Wars together, and we'd be doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, going to shows or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, music, dude. We gotta watch you practice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cover a couple real quick because there's some things in the news that just happened that I just wanted to bring up. Okay. And it may not have anything to do with you. You may not connect with it at all, but we just had Kirk Douglas pass. And I don't know if you watched any of his old stuff. 103 years old, man.
Yeah, man.
Could you imagine living to 103?
No. I think mid-80s I'm good.
Right?
I might want to check out there.
I know. It's beyond comprehension to me living that long. But anyway, people probably know him from Spartacus, or my favorite 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's gone. It's not like he was my favorite actor of all time, but I did think I should bring it up. And
sure, he was a bit before my time. I'm more familiar
for sure.
with his son, Michael
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
And Um, 100. Just real quick, 103. My significant other's grandfather will be 104 this year,
Dude.
and he's still pretty with it as far as his mental capacities go.
That's the thing. Like,
yeah.
I want my mental capacity. If I lose that, I want to go mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
But what do you think what does he have any secrets? Is there anything he
No,
does?
man. I mean, he's just still rocking. Like he's not
That's
as
so
mobile
cool.
as he used to be, obviously.
Sure.
But he'll sit there and tell you about a book he read 60 years ago and be able to explain it to you in great detail, or
Dude,
tell you stories from his youth.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to sit there across the table from him and just be like, between me and this guy,
Yeah.
is a 60-year-old man. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Right.
a whole life in between us, and we're still hanging out together. It's pretty.
I know plenty of people that didn't make it to their 60s.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's insane. So I have 2 younger brothers, and my middle brother was always really interested in old people. He would go and like interview them. This was not for a newspaper or for anything. It was just to go talk to old people and hear their stories.
Yeah, a lot of them have cool stories, man.
Yeah, and especially if they're together, the stuff people can tell you. If somebody's lived 100 years, man.
Yeah, they've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of our deficiencies today as a society is forgetting our history and forgetting our past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something. Old people are worth talking to. I guess that's the message that I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Learn from the people that have been around for a long time and have the experience and I'm sure you've heard it in movies or shows or whatever, but this has all happened before and it'll all happen again.
Yep.
So it's important to learn from our old people. I a little bit of a tangent there, but anyway.
No, I agree.
Rest in peace, Mr. Douglas.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll watch 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with my daughter tonight. I always loved the song. I can't
even remember the last time I've watched that movie. So
yeah, well, that was the original. I think that was the original purpose for the submarine ride at Disneyland.
Maybe, I don't know that for sure. I mean, I know,
or one of the original. Maybe it wasn't the first.
Right.
But that was definitely a popular Disney movie, and I know you have a lot of experience with Disneyland.
I do. I live pretty close, so we go as often as we can. We don't have passes, but
how often do you go?
We at least once a year, at the very least. But when we had passes, 7-8 years ago, we were going like every month.
Dude, Disneyland is getting so freaking expensive.
It's
like
super
insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. We can't justify passes anymore, so that's why we don't do it.
Yeah, you got to be like a millionaire. Now, you did the build a lightsaber, right?
I did. My significant other and I, we both did that.
So how long did you have to save? Those were pretty costly, right? A couple $100 or something?
Yeah, a couple $100 each. But we had, we knew when we were going. Yeah. So we had started kind of putting not really putting money aside, but just like, hey, be
ready for it.
Yeah, be cognizant of our spending because we're going to be dropping quite a bit. Yeah, we spent quite a bit of money over those 2 days. I mean, with hotel stay and with food and all the gear and all the stuff we bought.
Yeah,
we spent more than we wanted to, but looking back, like we got stuff that we want and we like, and it's out on display, or it's, I have Han Solo's dice hanging from my car mirror, like
nice.
It's stuff we have out and we enjoy it, so it was worth it. Yeah.
I think we'll make it back to Star Wars, but the reason it was in my mind, obviously, because we were talking about Disneyland, but also my daughter's super into it. I told you she's getting into it. She just got a lightsaber delivered yesterday. She ordered one off of Amazon and makes all the noises and lights up. But I was telling her about the build a lightsaber, and now she wants one of those, of course. So I gotta sell my hair or sell something.
Which lightsaber did she order?
One of it connects with a bunch of different pieces, so you can build basically lightsabers. You can,
yeah, I know. My little nephew has something similar where you can connect a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
and it extends, so you can whip it out, and then it makes the noises. It makes the light. When you're fighting, it makes the sound like the lightsabers are hitting each other.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Excellent.
Better than what I had when I was a kid, because that was just a freaking stick.
And you had to pretend. You had to use your imagination.
But I loved it, and I made all
totally.
the sounds,
Yeah.
But anyway, coming back to you and who you are, your main, as a content creator, your main outlet is Twitch, right? You don't YouTube or anything?
I don't do YouTube. Everyone's yelling at me to start putting stuff there because it'll help Twitch grow a little bit. So
Yeah.
I need to figure out how to start editing videos effectively. I mean, I get the idea, just the practice and skill I don't have yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, that would be my main content these days.
Okay, so that's twitch.tv/apostle_OFC.
That is correct.
And OFC does not stand for, of course.
It does not.
What does it stand for?
It's a story. So I told this story on another podcast that I was on not too long ago. And what was funny about that is the hosts of that podcast, I know them offline, obviously, but
Sure.
they were trying to guess what it was forever. So some of the like old farts club or
Nice.
orange fried chicken.
What?
I forgot some of the other crazier ones, but there were some funny, some good ones. So that goes way back to early 2000s. Okay, so Counter-Strike 1.6, no, even earlier, whatever it was before 1.6 really hit. I don't know if it was actual 1.5. It might have been a different version, but
Right.
I was playing Counter-Strike on cable modem for the first time. I had moved out of my parents' house. I was 19 years old. I was living with a buddy, had cable, and then another friend of ours was like, dude, you guys got to try this game, Counter-Strike. It was like pretty unknown at the time, or still newish.
Wow.
So he's like all about Counter-Strike and all about it, and I had my computer, big CRT monitor, all that stuff, and we were playing Counter-Strike like non-stop. Me, my roommate, another friend of ours, and it would just be like, go to work, come home, Counter-Strike, go to sleep. And then it's the same over and over and over. And I wasn't like amazing, but I was decent. I could hold my own. So fast forward a couple years, or a year, I met some friends through like online chatting. Just happened we are all in the same spot. We met up. Seems we all got along pretty well. Became a pretty tight-knit group of friends. Like I still consider those guys brothers today, even though we're all spread all over the country, but we still keep in contact. But
Sure.
I got them on Counter-Strike. So there's my little group of friends. We're all playing Counter-Strike together and trying to find servers that have good ping and whatever else, or just good places to play. One of my friends found a server on the East Coast, and it was called the East Coast Bloodshed. And it was a bunch of dudes out of Maine. They were in Portland, Maine. And we liked playing there, even though we had like a ping disadvantage. The guys were cool. The game modes were always fun. It was just a good place to play. We started playing there pretty regular. My buddy who found the place, they gave him admin. So then, all right, now this is our server. We're hanging out here all the time. We're going to police it. We're going to be good. They had a few in-house clans that played there. One being Claw. That was like the main group. There was a couple other ones, a feeder, because they played competitively. So we started trying to get into the competitive scene. I'll move forward a little bit. I wasn't known as Apostle yet. I was still playing under I was using Twisted by Design because that was like my favorite album from a punk band called Strung Out back then.
Right on.
So I was playing like under that moniker, and then I changed it to Anubis for some reason because I thought it sounded cool. So I was playing under Anubis. I don't know what my friends were playing under at the time, but then they kind of started goofing around with us, and they started calling us the God-hating Californians because everybody in California is so loose and whatever. There's no structure there. They would just mess with us and say, you guys are all God-hating out there. So
Sure.
we whimsically changed our names. So I became Apostle.
Oh.
My friend who found the Bloodshed, he changed his name to Seraph. We had Heresy, a Cleric, Epiphany, and
Prophet.
I think, no, Prophet comes later, and Saint. So those were the original 5 of us. Saint kind of fell off quickly. So the original 5 are myself, Heresy, Seraph, Epiphany, and Cleric.
Old school.
So we were all playing together, and we all eventually got into Claw. I won't go through all that, but we all eventually became Claw. So back in the day, there was your tag, your name, and that was it.
Yep.
But we wanted to distinguish ourselves as, oh, that's the California crew. Everybody knows that if you see those guys in there, they're all playing together and they're all friends. So we came up with .OFC at the end of our name.
Right.
And what OFC stands for is Order of the Fallen Cross, because we figured it was fitting to the nickname they gave us. It's not serious. It's just something that
Of course.
took on, and
It's all in jest.
it has stuck since 2002. Every game moniker I ever make is always going to have OFC after it or whatever. I'm pretty much Apostle OFC for the rest of my life.
Now,
Like-
I have no room to make fun of names at all.
Sure.
Obviously, I picked Bombadil. But what's cool, when you're describing all that, is I was thinking about gaming communities, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
as compared to today. Also, I think it has to do with us and our age, perhaps.
Yeah.
But back then, man, I could find, guilds or units or whatever, and make friends so easily.
Yeah.
And they would become like friends for life, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I find it harder these days. I don't know about you.
Maybe it might be the age thing. You're just you think you find it harder. Like I've met guys that I've played with.
Well, we met each other, right?
Sure, but I've met even recent times, like guys that I'm playing with now. Like I didn't meet him, Jibfu and
Yeah.
Tregtronics. I didn't meet them until like a year or two ago, and now they're like part of my gaming group. Or I'm part of their group first, basically.
I think a big part of it too was when I was younger, I just didn't have a lot of responsibilities, so I could just game constantly.
That totally helps.
Yeah.
But
Well, so part
that's
of
the story of OFC.
Yeah, basically gaming history. Very cool. Now, okay, I mentioned people can find you at your Twitch channel. What is your? I know you have a Twitter account as well.
I'm also at Apostle_OFC on Twitter.
Cool. So there's the info if you guys want to check him out and learn who Apostle is and watch some of the content that he creates. I totally recommend that you do. I know that you play, recently you picked up some Elite Dangerous. You're
Yep.
playing Mech 5 still a little bit. What else? What kind of games do you like, and what can people expect to see you doing if they come check you out?
So lately I think it's just going to be space stuff. Like I am way hooked on Elite Dangerous. After trying it a couple years ago and it just didn't really stick. But this time, like it's got its hooks in me, and like I'm eating, breathing, sleeping Elite Dangerous.
Dude, that is such a good feeling as a gamer when you find a game.
And it's fun and it's engaging, and even doing nothing. Like last night I streamed it, and I was learning stuff each time I play, I'm learning something, and I'm finding that the old heads or the hardcore community is very helpful.
Yeah, they're an amazing community. Very similar, in my opinion, to the MechWarrior community, because it tends to be, it's not always the case, there's always exceptions, but it tends to be a little bit of older crowd, more mature, a little bit more patient because of the type of game that it is. It's not like a Counter-Strike or, whatever, adrenaline rush type game. It's more of a slow-paced game. So yeah, extremely helpful community.
Yeah.
And I was watching you were learning mining last night, right?
Well, I was learning more of the planetary stuff last night, how to find loot on the planets. But yeah, and then to follow up on your question, what kind of games do I like? I mean, everybody likes a good shooter. It's fun to play it, even if you're not great at it.
Just me in every shooter. I
think playing against other humans is compelling. Like,
yeah,
it's you against somebody else battling. Story-driven games. I'm not really a fan of games on rails anymore. Like I really that's all there used to be, was these single-player story-driven games. But I think we live in such an era now where it's like we're engaged by these huge open sandboxes where you can go do whatever you want.
Oh, for sure.
And having worked on a couple MMOs in my history, I'm more drawn towards just the massive multiplayer realm where player interaction almost drives the gameplay. EVE Online is a big example of that.
Right.
I was heavy into PvP in EVE Online, and that, like, there was no other way to play that game in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I played it for 5 years. I played it from 2003 to 2008. And absolutely, it took me months to even remotely wrap my head around that game and then get into PvP. But once I found a unit or a corp and we moved to 0-0, goodbye life, man.
Yeah, really. I've played that game off and on since '06.
Yeah.
And I haven't touched it in a while. Maybe over a year. My girlfriend laughs at me sometimes, like, when are you gonna start playing Eve again? Because I always say I'm never
careful
going
what
back.
you ask for, right?
I say I'm never going back, and then she laughs. But then now I'm playing this Elite Dangerous, and she'll joke with me. She'll come in stream and be like, "Man, Eve looks way different. This is Eve Online, right?" Just giving me crap. So
I think Elite Dangerous might become a gateway drug to other space games. Now, the thing with, that's why I said you got to be careful what you wish for. I can't play Eve casually. Like I just can't.
You can't. I mean, I can't. Just being from the PvP background that I had, I can't just. That's not a casual game. Whereas Elite right now, and I feel like in the near future will still stay pretty casual until we figure out exactly what we're doing, and then we'll have higher, loftier goals.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to ever become the same type of commitment that EVE Online was, though, because obviously with EVE Online, shit could happen when you're not playing, and then you're getting texts or emails from your, got to get on and defend or whatever.
Dude, it's 4 a.m. I know, but our station's about to go down, but I don't care that bad.
Yeah. So, and with responsibilities, jobs, families, whatever.
Yeah.
I stay clear. Now, you say you don't like the story-driven stuff as much. What about story-driven stuff that's also fairly open world? Like, for example, Witcher 3 or the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077. Do you have any interest in those type of games that you don't have to be necessarily on rails at all?
So, I like to think I do, and then a few, I don't know, some hours in, I just lose interest hard. Like,
interesting.
Fallout 4, I was all about it. I was ready to play it, and then as soon as it didn't seem like you gave a crap about the main story, like there's all this other side stuff to do. I'm just like, I can't stay engaged. And then Witcher 3, I loved the first little bit. Once I discovered Gwent, the rest of the game could just go away, and I was only worried about collecting Gwent cards and going and challenging everybody. So,
dude, I
like
loved
to think
Gwent.
Yeah. I like to think I like single player RPG games, but I don't know. They don't hold me like they should, and I don't know why that is. Like, I think Red Dead Redemption is probably the only caveat to that, because that first Red Dead Redemption is probably one of my top 3 games, top 5 games. The sound design alone is what really got me, because I'm kind of an audiophile, so I really enjoy that. I mean, that's why I got into the gaming industry, which we haven't talked about yet, but
right, we'll get there.
I wanted to do sound and music, sound design and or music. That's what I really wanted to do, and I was just met with, oh, this guy's been here longer, or we don't have a spot, or just whatever.
Yeah, it's a tough industry to break into.
Yeah. If the game has a good soundtrack, like, I can overlook some things that may be like nagging quality of life, but
what was that recent space game that had a freaking kick-ass soundtrack? It was like Rebel something.
Rebel Galaxy.
Oh, did you like that soundtrack?
I didn't play that enough. I have it. I just haven't really dove deep yet. But yeah, that one's a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
To finally answer the question, like, what games will people see when they come to my channel?
Yep.
It was pure MechWarrior Online, if you remember, when I started streaming. That was all I was doing, because I figured I kind of had a foothold in that community. I liked pretty much everybody who was streaming that game. I was greatly looking forward to meeting everyone at MechCon, and I'm like, I need to get in with these guys, and like these are the people that I support. Hopefully I can get some support back. And it was great. It was awesome. And then I was like, okay, I want to change it up. I want to play some other stuff, because you can only play MechWarrior Online. To me, it's not a dig, or it's not anybody who likes playing it every night. I can't play it every night. And I was trying to really find my way, and I talked to a few experienced streamers, and they're like, hey, you're gonna take a hit when you go variety. That's just how it is. Don't freak out. But I freaked out anyway. I'm like, no one's watching me. Why am I even doing this? That kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I've definitely changed my mentality about that, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna play whatever. I'm gonna try to play it in blocks, so people who want to watch, at least they'll get a little consistency. I try to stay very active on Twitter to let people know what I'll be playing that day.
Right.
That way, there's no surprises or whatever. Like, I want to at least give you a heads up and give you the choice.
Yeah, I have noticed you've been more active on Twitter, which has been awesome because it does give people a heads up, the people that follow. Now, when you first started streaming, I remember asking you, "Are you doing this to become a successful streamer, or are you doing it just for fun?" And you mentioned just for fun. But even when you're doing that, you still want
to put stuff in. You still want to get a return. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
At least me, and that. Could
and you
want
to see your numbers grow, right? It's like natural.
Yeah. Not everybody, I don't think, thinks that way, but it could be just my background as like a musician. Like, why am I wasting my time in this band if no one's coming to play? Like,
oh man, I had a lot of those gigs though.
Sure.
Where it was like our friends and family were the only ones in the audience.
Yeah, I've played to empty clubs where just the bands that were on tour together, we were the only ones playing together. So.
Yeah, and then also I think streaming really harkens back to I don't know if it was this way for you, but when I was a kid and we'd go to the arcade, you'd have your friends hanging out watching. So you'd have like 3 or 4 friends watching you play.
Yeah.
They had their quarters lined up, and it was their turn, and then you'd watch them or whatever.
Yeah,
I feel like Twitch is an extension of that. But now these days, when you've got people streaming to like 40, 50, 100,000 people, it's insane. Number one, but also it makes you want some of those numbers, huh?
Yeah, and I will, I'll readily admit that like my content's not at that level, but it'd be nice to, I'm not gonna lie and say, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to an extent, right? But
I don't know that your content's not at that level. The problem really is exposure, and like I think you're a great streamer. I enjoy watching.
Thanks,
I enjoy hanging out in your channel and talking. And I know streamers that are bigger, much bigger, that I feel like if they were to start today, they wouldn't make it. The reason that they exist is because they started way back in the beginning, and they built a huge audience. They got the exposure, and so now they're on top, and it's hard to kind of topple those people. Not that I would want to topple anybody,
right,
at all. Everybody deserves their chance and their shot, but I think it's a totally different landscape today than it was like 5 years ago, as far as starting off streaming or doing YouTube or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't want to I'm not trying to turn it into my job.
Right.
But like, just hypothetically, let's say I get, crazy raid, and then over 400 people are starting to tune in every night, and people are subbing, and all this shit's crazily happening. Like, I would take it as it came, obviously, but that's
you're not going to turn people away.
Correct, but that's not my end goal. Is to be a daily, streamer, a full-time streamer.
Well, we'll talk about your job and your jobs, because you mentioned that you previously were at a game developer, which obviously I know. But before we get to employment and that kind of thing, and what I'd love to do, because actually I don't know this, is just learn about you, like, where you grew up and what growing up was like, and like, where were you born? I was born up in the mountains of Colorado. Probably most people don't know that. I don't know anything about you as far as your past life. So tell me, where you grew up, what was your life like, etc.
Okay, so I am born and raised in San Diego, California.
Shit.
And I still live here today.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, I tell people that, and they go, there's not many of you guys left. And I go, really? Like, I feel like everybody I know who is from here is still here. Like,
oh, really?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I run with the locals, but
California seems like one of those states where everybody moves to or is moving out of. I don't know people that are like generational Californians. Although I was, although I was born in Colorado, moved to California when I was 2 years old, and so I knew tons of people that were there forever. But anyway, born and raised in San Diego, still in San Diego.
And
that's
still
amazing.
Here. Yep.
Do you love San Diego?
I don't see myself leaving. I don't.
What do you love about San Diego?
Just the weather, for one. Just I don't know. I don't know what it is that I love about the city, but this is my city. Like, I love this city. Like,
that's awesome, dude.
I can't see myself living anywhere else unless I had to.
Yeah.
And there's a few things that would make that happen, but
right.
I grew up in the most southwesterly city in the continental U.S., Imperial Beach.
Wow.
I went to high school there. Single mom. We didn't have it like super rough, but it wasn't like we didn't have a TV for a long time when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Mom.
Did you know your dad in any way?
Not until I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So I met him when I was 6. I started hanging out with him like every other week. My mom, basically said, "Hey, when we had you, you were planned, and then your dad didn't want to grow up, so I told him to kick rocks, and that
Wow.
was it." Yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
I have a half sister from my father. She's 10 years younger than me, and she lives in New York State.
Gotcha.
And then she has my niece and my nephew there.
You have a relationship still with your father today, or is he
Yeah,
still...
we're like buddies. Like it's definitely not father son to the extent. I mean, it is. Like I know he's my dad. I call him dad and all that stuff. But my stepdad's more my father figure as far as growing up was, because he was in the house. My mom met him when I was like 8, and he's still he's been around the whole time.
Cool, man.
And he's the one who like taught me how to like work on things and be good with my hands and tools and stuff. And then my father's the one who I took all my musical inspiration from. So.
Oh, I was just gonna ask that, where you got the your
So my
gifts
dad, my dad's a musician. My mom also played music in high school.
Nice.
So it's in the blood, if you say,
And your mom's still around as well?
Oh yeah, she and my stepfather both live in IB in the house I grew up in still. So.
Damn, dude. So now, So growing up in San Diego, well, first of all, I grew up in Northern California, so I kind of have an idea of what it was like. And also I want to point out, if anybody's thinking, ooh, Southern California, I totally agree in regards to LA, but
it's not LA.
There's a huge difference between LA and San Diego.
LA can suck it.
Yeah. I mean, and I lived in San Diego for a year. Absolutely beautiful and a great city. So what was it like growing up for you? Did you hang out at the beach a lot? Were you a surfer? Were you a geek? What was your...
So the first house when we moved to, I lived in a little place called North Park. You might know it.
Mm-hmm.
When I was young, and then we moved to Imperial Beach when I was about 6. We were about 3 blocks from the beach. And it was like, school, normal, elementary school, and then skateboarding out there with my buddies, riding bikes or whatever. Played, I did all the little kid stuff, played Little League. I was in school band. But I was at the beach a lot. And then especially in high school, I was at the beach almost every day. I was bodyboarding every day.
Dude, California.
Yeah, it was, I mean, to the point where I almost didn't graduate high school because I was at the beach so much.
I was, growing up in Santa Cruz, California, I was a total surfer as well. So I lived at the beach. Where did you pick up music? We'll get into your music for sure. I want to hear more about it. But like, where did
it start?
Both your parents had it in their blood. So you obviously had it in your blood. What was that switch where you're like, oh, I want to do music?
All right. So 4th grade, there was like a music class. Like we all went to this auditorium thing, and the music teacher was there and was talking about the music program. And it was the name of the district was like South Bay Union. So this was the South Bay Union music program. And I remember going to that, and I saw the music instruments, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember, I was, so 4th grade, you're what? You're like 8 years old, maybe 7, something like that.
No, my daughter's 9 and she's in 3rd grade. So you're probably 10.
No, I feel like I was 10 in 5th grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because that was 1990, and I was, okay, so yeah. So I was like...
So you were 8 or
9. 8 or 9 years old. And I remember going home and telling my mom about it, and she's like, well, look, like your dad and I, we played instruments in high school, and you could play one of those or something. And I was like, all right, cool. I want to do drums. Every little kid wants to do drums. They want to hit stuff. It's fun.
Animal from the Muppets.
Totally. So I went the next day. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be drummer. And like 3 kids had drumsticks already. And I was
You're already behind.
Wait a minute. What? They didn't say to bring anything, right? So they're like, well, all the I go, I want to be drums. And they're like, oh, all the drums are spoken for. And what else do you want to try? And I go, well, that one looks fun. Trombone, the slidey thing.
Oh, really?
So if any of you guys do watch my Twitch channel and we talk about trombones, that's a whole funny thing that happened at MechCon. So we'll get into that too. But
cool.
So I started playing trombone in 4th grade, age 8 or 9, something like that. 8. I was 8 years old, so it was 4th grade. Yeah.
You were preparing yourself for the ska
3rd grade,
movement.
something like that. I was in a ska band too in high school, but I didn't.
Of course.
I didn't play trombone in that band.
Okay.
Oddly enough,
you played bass.
I played bass in that band.
So now, what do you remember when you went to that musical event and something piqued your interest? Was it just music in general, or did you see somebody up on stage with a particular instrument? Was it the drummer that made you get excited about it, or you don't remember?
it was just music in general, because like growing up, mom was always playing music, not playing, but there was always music on, like everywhere
music
I was.
appreciation.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like I can still remember, I can still recall like looking through my mom's vinyl collection back then.
Right?
And I can picture album covers. I don't know
Absolutely
the bands or whatever, but I can picture the covers still. So
yeah, same way.
it was just a music appreciation thing, and I was like, I want to play music too. And drums didn't get it, so trombone was it, and I played trombone up until age 16.
Did you say 16?
Yeah, 16. I played concert band in elementary school. That's pretty much all there is. Then middle school, I did concert band and marching band. And then in middle school, at age 13, I wanted to play bass because I knew my dad played bass guitar, and I heard Tommy the Cat by Primus, and my dad goes, "That's the bass." I go, "I want to do that." So I got my first bass on my 13th birthday, and I still have it.
Wow, dude. So are you now would you consider yourself still proficient in trombone?
No, not at all. I mean, I can still read music.
Right.
But I bet I could still get some notes out of it, but I'd have to start all over.
Sure. So is your best instrument your most proficient today bass? Because I know you are somewhat multi-instrumental, right?
It'd be no, not really. I mean, I don't consider myself, as far as like electronic music, I mean,
right.
You just have to have keyboard knowledge, and you're pretty good there as far as chord composition. But I'd say bass is my strongest instrument, even though I don't play it as often as I should.
And I've seen videos of you playing bass. I have heard you playing bass. You're a phenomenal bass player.
Thank you.
Can you play some Primus tunes?
Like, I can play. So when I got my bass, I that summer locked myself in my bedroom, not literally, but
right.
That's the phrase. And the Frizzle Fry album, I had one of those CD players where you could do that A/B repeat.
Oh yeah.
And I would just lock in on a section and go, okay, I got to learn that section, and then I would just learn it by ear. I feel like my ear's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I'd lock that section down, and I would move on to the next section. So I learned pretty much every single song except for a couple things that I just couldn't make out what he was doing. That was the first, like, all right, that's I'm going to learn how to play. And then I've been in metal bands mostly since then, aside from the ska band that I was in.
Right. So that was going to be my next question is what your musical tastes are. So of course I know that you're totally into metal.
I'm into metal. Yeah.
Can you tell me some of the bands and artists you like these days?
So like my top 3 bands right now, Gojira is always going to be up there. They're just one of the heaviest bands I've ever heard. A good friend of mine put me onto those guys like, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, and I was just like, everything they come out with, I'm into it.
Cool.
I've been going back and listening to some older, like, Norma Jean stuff.
Yeah.
And their 2 newest records are such a leap in evolution with their sound and their style. And I know a lot of the old Norma Jean heads are like, he sings too much now, and this is too, like, it's too sing-songy or whatever, but it shows so much growth. Like, there's so much more thought going into these songs, and it's just like, dude, how can you hear that and say it sucks? I don't know. And I mean, I'm always gonna have love for Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, that's like
nice.
one of my tops.
That's out of left field.
It's because they had horn players. Their bass player was amazing. The vocals are amazing.
It's funny with artists like that. I think a lot of people these days, I hate using the phrase kids these days.
Sure.
But I'm older, so I guess I mean that. But like, you don't realize how much of the modern music you listen to is directly influenced or indirectly influenced by some of these bands who had incredible either songwriting abilities or where they draw their music from. It's like everything else I was saying earlier. We don't know our history, and that totally translates to music as well. When you see, I love seeing a young person discover older music, the stuff that's not cool right now.
Yeah.
But then they discover something and they're like, I really appreciate this because of this or that or whatever thing that they're into today, and they can make that connection. It's always such a fun thing for me.
Yeah. I get that. And
So
I grew up with older stuff, so it was already kind of there. Like my mom was already playing, old rock and roll that gave birth to the metal. Like,
totally, dude.
So I don't know. I'm all over them. I know people say I like everything.
Yeah.
I definitely draw influences from a lot of different stuff, even electronic music. I can honestly say, like, there are some old country artists that I kind of like the songs, but like I don't like country music. That's not my vein.
What do they call? So I'm totally down with old school country. Not that I listen to it on a regular basis.
Sure.
But I totally have an appreciation for old school. I don't like modern country.
Yeah, it's like it's too just not. I don't know. It doesn't.
It's cookie cutter to me. It's just it's like almost all of them are the same to some extent.
Yeah.
I'm sure people will disagree, and that's totally fine. It's subjective. Enjoy whatever you listen to. My tastes tend to, because if you watch my streams, they tend to be like 80s metal.
Yeah, you're a hair metal guy for sure.
I feel like probably for a bass player, some of the most boring music in the world. It's just like dum dum dum.
Some of it, sure, but there are some solid.
Yes, there are
solid bass players out of that era that just are in the pocket, and they are the most solid dudes ever.
Yep.
Yeah. So when there's like stuff that I don't own, but if I hear it, I'm into it. But I don't own it. But my library mostly, and my girlfriend will make fun of me at this too. She's like, all you ever do is listen. So most of my stuff is metal. I like a lot of electronic stuff, like the big synthwave movement that happened about 5-7 years ago, and it's still going pretty good. Yep. I mean, I even got in on that, trying to compose some of that stuff.
What about EDM and stuff?
Not really EDM as much. Like, to me, okay, subjectively, it's one long song, and I could be done. I could be anywhere else other than listening to that stuff. But there are some tracks that I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat sounding. Yeah. I like the twist they did on that or whatever. But when it's just that constant 4 on the floor, I'm like, yeah, I'm over this like pretty quickly. But
I saw you watching in your stream. I think it was last night. What's the guy's name? Not Cedric the Entertainer, but that's
Tyler the Creator.
There you go.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, like I try. I watch a lot of Saturday Night Live, so I get exposed to some of the newer artists on there. I can see that guy has talent. I just haven't fully appreciated it yet. But it's always fun to see new music. I was talking to Sean Colton, the composer and sound guy at Piranha, and we were talking about the difference between when we grew up and making it music and today. And I think there's pros and cons. Back in the day, I feel like the entry to being a professional musician was a lot more difficult. You had to I'm sure you've heard the term 10,000 hours. To become a master at anything, you need to put 10,000 hours into it.
Yep.
Today, that can kind of be bypassed with, social media, people becoming Instagram stars or YouTube stars. And there's super talented people, like, for example, that little girl you were playing last night.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Holy cow, man. Like that, she's going to have a absolute career as a bass player if she wants it, right? No doubt about it.
I think she's more a drummer, but like most of her videos are her drumming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's a drummer and she's that good at bass?
Yeah, but like to counter that, I was kind of joking around, but at the same time, I'm being a little serious where I'm like, the only reason why this is wow is because she's a little kid. Like, if you were watching some 30-year-old dude play this, you'd be like, so what? I can do that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but isn't that enough?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't get 6 million views if I did that exact thing. No, of course. You know what I'm saying?
But think of if she's there now. Think about where she'll be when she's 20.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I was just trying, kind of tongue in cheek. Like,
no, I understand.
The only reason why this is fun or exciting is because it's a little
girl. Yeah.
Would you pay to go watch some dude do this at Balboa Park?
No. Obviously no. But what I was getting at is that it's a very different landscape, and there's all kinds of different ways for people to get into the industry and get into music and get exposure, and it's definitely an interesting landscape out there. What I think what I'm ultimately saying is that I feel like, and I'm, again, this isn't a blanket statement, I'm not trying to paint with a huge brush or anything like that, but to me, and I think also this comes across as an old person thing, I feel like that when people had to put in the hours, overall, you were getting musicians better equipped for being a professional musician, could play everything, were amazing artists. And I feel like today, and it might be my taste in music and so forth, we're not getting as many super talented songwriting, artists like we used to. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
I get what you're saying, because back then it was like only the cream would rise to the top, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, since everyone's accessibility is so much more,
yeah,
everything's getting through. So it's like it's hard to you got to sift through more stuff to find the quality. So like anybody can literally produce songs in their bedroom now. It's amazing, but there's more shit, and you got to find the good stuff is still there. There's just more debris in the way.
You need a filter, which is often people I know, will say, "Hey, check this."
Right.
Like I can totally appreciate what's her name, Billie Eilish. Is that
sure?
How you, yeah. Like I can totally appreciate some of these new artists. But
anyway.
I
see these people sing, and I'm like, man, that person can sing. Not my style of music, but they're a talented vocalist. I'll give. I'm not a hater. I will give credit where credit's due.
Cool. So now, if anybody go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. I was just gonna to finish it off. Just like you were saying, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot more to consume now. So you have to be a little more diligent if you want to find the quality that you are personally looking for.
Now, if anybody wants to hear you play, is there any way for them to hear you?
I don't know how much stuff is still posted. Like, I would have to put together a list. I would have to sift through YouTube and find live performances, and there's not much out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there is stuff out there. Like, I was in a touring band.
What was the name of your band?
The band I toured with, the name of the band was Media Lab.
Okay. What years?
That was 2000. Okay, so I toured with them in 2005 because their bass player couldn't tour.
Cool.
And then after we got back, I stepped back into his role. I started looking for another group, and then about a year later, they're like, "Hey, dude, quit. You got the job if you want it." So I was in that band from 2006 to 2009 ish.
Cool.
We toured with a band that is still playing today, and they're pretty big as far as I'm aware. In this moment, metal band, female fronted metal band, who we toured with them the summer before they just blew the fuck up.
Of course, man.
And I was like, damn it. Like, we played with those guys. We shared tiny little stages with them, and they were normal, cool people. And I haven't talked to anybody in that band for years, but like I remember the two that are still there. They're very nice. They treated us very great.
Now, was your band all piling in a van together?
And we were all piling in a big Yukon XL with a trailer and just going.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the stuff I used to dream about when I was younger. I wanted that so bad, but I don't know if I could do the van thing anymore.
No, I definitely can't.
It's a hell of a life.
Yeah, it's just, it's too much.
Okay, so right on with the music, and maybe I know that your significant other is trying to prod you a little bit to get back into it, so maybe we'll hear some future music,
some new
from
stuff.
from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, my wife just brought in my old guitar. I had it in some storage in an old office here at the house, and I look at it and I think about it. I'd love to get some music back in my life again. Maybe we'll play in a band together someday.
Maybe.
Yeah, right.
It's the internet makes all things happen.
Right. So now, what else do you do? I know. Do you want to explain at all what your job is, or do you want to keep that on the down low?
I can talk about a little bit. I mean, I can't. I work for a big defense contractor. I'm kind of like a glorified IT position.
Right.
The bare minimum is we work with the submarine navy here in San Diego.
Dude, that's so cool. That's what I wanted to get at.
And
submarines.
Yeah, and my primary job is to manage and maintain what's called a ship's control trainer. And it's basically a room mocked up about thirds of the control room on a 688 fast attack submarine.
Is
And
that
it's
the LA class?
It's the Los Angeles class, yeah, 688. And it's on a gimbaled platform, and they essentially drive it.
That is crazy. I just yesterday when I was streaming had somebody that is in the Navy stationed on a LA class submarine in my chat.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean I'm super into boats and the ocean. Always loved submarines, and so when I heard you were working on submarines a couple years ago or whatever, thought that was pretty dang awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. I like my job.
So basically, it's like a giant simulator.
That's exactly what it is.
Like the best submarine game you could ever have.
The best submarine game you could play.
That's so cool, man.
It'll crank. We can get 45-degree pitch angles on it and 30-degree roll angles on it.
Oh my god, dude, that must.
So it moves.
Have you been able to like be in there during an actual?
Yeah, I have to test it every day that they're gonna have a training session, so I have to drive it.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
That's freaking cool.
It's neat. Yeah.
There's for people who don't know, there's a big Navy base in San Diego. I used to I don't know if they do it anymore, but they used to rent little motorboats, like just, little tiny like 3-people motorboats or whatever in the bay there, and I used to kind of putt around the bay, and one time got way too close to an aircraft carrier, and they like did their horn and then got on a mega horn to me and basically told me to get the fuck away.
Yep.
Which was a scary. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, but it was the first time I'd gotten too close to any kind of military thing. So after that, I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
But anyway, I used to love to just sit out there and watch all the planes and helicopters taking off and landing and the different boats. And it's a totally cool bay
it's
there.
Cool. I've worked on military equipment since I was 19 with various companies.
That's way cool, man.
I've been on a bunch of surface ships. I've worked. Yeah, I have a pretty deep work history, just constantly changing jobs, trying to get better opportunities.
Did you ever think about joining the Navy?
Never did. I think when I was 18 or 19, when I graduated, and I was kind of being lazy about finding work, I thought about it I could just do it for 4 years, get some money for school.
Right.
And then, go see some cool stuff, whatever, work on cool stuff.
See the world, kid.
Yeah, I didn't really see it that way. I was just I could learn how to do some cool stuff and then get out and make something of myself. But I didn't. And then 9/11 happened, and I was I'm kind of glad I didn't go do that.
Right.
Hats off to all the guys that do that, and the guys that I work with every day.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. And anybody listening, if you're in the service, man, thank you
for your service, for sure. Now, you also mentioned that you dabbled a little bit in game dev. Do you want to tell me what happened there?
Okay, so don't get ahead of yourself. I didn't game dev at all. I was a quality assurance technician.
You worked for a developer.
I worked for 2 different developers.
Okay. So what's that story?
So 2009, I was tired of doing construction, and I had a friend who worked for SOE, which is Sony Online Entertainment, which no longer exists. They are now Daybreak.
Didn't they do Star Wars Galaxies?
They did.
Yep.
That was before
among
I
other
worked.
Things.
Yeah, that was before I worked there. But
yeah,
that Star Wars Galaxies is still probably my favorite MMO that I've ever played, because I played it before it turned
until they
trash.
made the change. Yeah. Dude, there are a million stories that, everybody loved it before it, then they just effed it up.
Yeah, and I've had unrecreatable, I don't know if that's the right word, but
we'll make it one.
I've had experiences in that MMO that I've never been able to recreate in another one. There's just the community, the things we were doing, the fact that it was Star Wars, and I'm a pretty avid Star Wars fan.
You think?
Yeah, just a little bit.
If that game were to come out today, we'll get back to who you worked for. If that game were to come out today with today's technology, do you think you'd be as addicted to it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I wish they would.
Yeah, it's not.
No, I know.
I don't even think about it.
Okay, so what was your entry into this?
So
Sony Online
Entertainment was ramping up. They needed a bunch of QA testers for a browser game they were putting out called Free Realms, and it was geared towards kids, and it was to directly compete with a game called Club Penguin. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you
I
haven't.
have not.
Okay, that's like late 2000s. So Club
Gotcha.
Penguin was this browser game where kids were just addicted to it and getting money from their parents to buy stuff and just
Right.
whatever. It was crushing it, right? So our fearless leader, who will remain nameless at this time, if you guys know who it is, you know who I'm talking about. You know that he's had a lot of gaming blunders that don't make up for the fact that he created EverQuest.
Oh,
He can't.
yeah, Smedley?
He can't ride that forever. Okay, like you just
Was
can't.
it Smedley?
It was John Smedley.
Yeah.
He thought, oh, we need to do this. This is what's happening. But that wave
Right.
had already broken. That wave had crested and broken, and we were now jumping into the whitewash trying to pick it up.
Right.
When I worked at SOE, I came across some test docs of an unnamed project that was potentially going to be the next game, and it lined up with the blow up of survival. So it would have been one of the firsts of that genre,
Man.
and that would have been the frickin' golden goose, man. That would have been it.
Right.
But they've shelved it because the story is, I don't know this for fact, but people who worked there were like, oh, because Smed's nephew liked the Free Roams demo, so that's what we're pushing. He loves it. Kids are going to love this. And of course it tanked, but whatever.
Dude,
My
isn't
name
it
is-
weird when you hear those stories?
Yeah.
Like
My
how
name is
close-
attached to a ton of turds, so that's my legacy in the gaming industry.
At
I
least you have
worked at it.
experience in it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So I am more sympathetic to. So I see both sides of the curtain, right? Like I'm a gamer, obviously, but I
Right.
also understand what goes into these games,
Yes.
and I understand like the man hours. And when I see the outrage of players and the things that they're complaining about or the things that they're demanding, I have to like not get involved because I want to say things that will
You want to
argue the other.
reprimand them.
They
Yeah.
will not so much that, just educate, like let them know
Yeah.
what you're really asking for and what's really going on. And it bums me out that people are so entitled almost. Like if you really wanted these games to be, I'm going to soapbox for a second. If you really
Go for
wanted
it.
these games to be the quality you're really asking for, you're not going to have $60 games anymore. It's just not going to happen. You're getting $60 worth of games where people are like, oh, the game's unfinished. It's broken. I shouldn't have to pay for DLC, but I want content faster. Microtransactions are the devil. Like, it all has its place. And I'm not saying across the board it's all good, because some companies will manipulate that model to
Yes.
make money off people. However, games should literally cost $100 minimum for a AAA finished title. You should be looking at least $100. And a lot of people will say I'm crazy for saying that, but having been on the other side of the curtain, let's take Game Company X, right? They have 1,000 people working on Title A. Title A comes out. The sales aren't that great. People aren't really digging it. Dang, Company X has to lay off 500 people. Now you're down to half the workforce. But Title A is a living game, so it has to keep getting worked on. And then people are like, well, we want more content, but we're not going to pay for microtransactions, and we shouldn't have to pay for more content. Well, how are those 500 people now are going to do the work of 1,000 people for free? Like, that does... What other
Yeah.
What other company can you go to and say, hey, I want more, but I'm not going to pay for it, and I should have it right now? Like, there's no other industry where you demand that, right?
Yeah, I think ultimately, and you're right, it's about educating people. It's, when we got involved, Phil and I, with PGI, we were totally ignorant to the industry. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there's people in there that were super irritated by us kind of, we kind of jammed our foot in the door when the door was closing and said, hey, we want to be in there and
Right.
involved. And, so I know that we had at least slight influence early on to where it might be disruptive to the development atmosphere in a game developer,
Yeah.
because we had no experience. We didn't know what the fuck. We just knew what we liked as gamers. We knew what we wanted as gamers. But so basically, that developed my saying, which I've also learned over the many years of working in the entertainment industry in various forms, which is you don't know what you don't know, and like I used to drive
True.
people crazy with that. I've said that for 10 years. I've told people that, but it's absolutely true. Until
Yeah.
you jump into something full bore, you have no idea what all the variables are, the outside influences, the business decisions because you can't make a AAA game without, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so, like if you look at a Grand Theft Auto or, it's insane how much money goes into them.
Right.
And, and so you have to make decisions based on that money because the money doesn't grow on trees,
Right.
So you got investors and you got to deal with. So like there's just all these business decisions that go in, and everybody wants the same thing, which is just the best freaking game. But as a developer, you're constantly having to, it's like obstacles left, right, all the way until the game releases.
There's lots of stuff.
So you have to compromise, and you have to, it's unfortunate. And also the other thing is that it's a huge risk. You can't, no matter what IP you own or franchise you have access to or whatever, there's no guarantee that you put out a game it's going to be a success.
Yeah.
So I had a similar experience, obviously, where I had one foot in with a developer and one foot in the community, and learned a lot of stuff. I was very humbled by like, oh man, I went and, fully charged, for this one thing that I wanted. And I kind of got reprimanded by PGI, there's a pipeline, and there's the head of, whatever it is, the art department or whatever. So you might say, hey, this mech should be this or whatever, but you have no idea what you're disrupting by, requesting that or trying to make it happen or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I think you had a similar insight, right?
Yeah. So it's being in QA, we were like, so what we like to refer to ourselves as, anybody who plays MMOs will get this, and I'll explain it if you don't. We were the healers of the raid.
Healers of the what?
Of the raid group.
Oh, okay.
If everything went great, nobody cared about the job we did. It was all about the tank or the DPS, right? But if everything failed, it's the healer's
all
fault.
your fault.
It's always the healer's
yeah.
fault. So we were the healers of the raid group, where
right.
we're essentially the last line of defense before your product is out in the wild.
Yep.
And we would find all these things that were very terrible and just like, dude, this is bad or whatever. And we'd get pushback like, we don't have time to fix that. Like, we're locked to a hard date. That's why Rockstar is so successful, is because they don't commit to a date until they are satisfied with their product.
Yeah, they're in a position where they can do that.
Correct. Other game companies are like, this is the date we have to be out by, and it's like, we get done what we get done. And it's unfortunate, but that's how sometimes companies have to do it that way. And my earlier rant, I wasn't sticking up for anybody specifically. I do feel like all game companies are guilty of being misleading at times, but I think that's because there's so much competition with other ones. They have to be. However, there has been a few deals that have done people a little bit wrong, and I'm not going to speak on them specifically, but I think we all kind of know what we're talking about, where people were rubbed the wrong way. And that sucks, but it happens. Like, you got to think from the money standpoint, but then you're like, you shouldn't be so greedy, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I worked for companies where the guys at the top had no clue what the players were actually wanting.
Right.
And that's bad. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty bad. So if you can support indie studios, which I think indie studios are putting out great games right now. Like, we live in this awesome time where a small team with a small budget can put out a freaking killer game.
Yeah.
Like, support the hell out of small studios if you can.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Sony Online, I was on the auxiliary test team for Free Realms. Then I got put on a team called Skunkworks within the team, in the company. We touched everything.
Yeah.
So we took overflow from everybody's stuff, or the reason why it was called Skunkworks is because we secretly tested stuff that wasn't ready to be tested to try to find early problems.
You got to break it.
Right. So we were like
job.
the guys going in, breaking things, and then bugging it, and then when the devs would release it to the actual QA, their embedded testing team, we would already have a database of bugs built. So they didn't like us very much, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The devs didn't like us.
Of course.
Programmers hated us even more. But then I worked on EverQuest 2. I was part of the embedded test team for that game. I did 2 expansions for that game.
Yeah.
Destiny of Velius and one other one that I can't remember.
I was big into the first EverQuest.
Okay.
I didn't really get into EverQuest too much.
I tested EQ1 a little bit, and I don't ever want to see that game on my screen again, like ever. The testing tools and that the testing tools were so clunky. It made it impossible.
I was what were the in-game helpers for that?
I don't even remember.
The GMs, or I don't know. We had our own little cloud city or something like that. I was an in-game helper.
Nice.
But yeah. So a lot of QA experience. What happened to what happened in your life to where you were doing that and then you exited the industry and now you're doing the submarine stuff?
Okay, so I was working. I got laid off from SOE. I survived like 3 layoffs in 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I was like, man, I got to either get like a good solid position or that the industry's so volatile. Like,
tough industry.
It sucks. Yeah. Anybody who's aspiring to get into it, good luck. If somebody were to ask me, hey, how can I get into gaming? I always go, you don't want to. I'm honest.
No, I mean, I've been totally open to people that if it weren't Piranha Games, I wouldn't have been doing it. If it wasn't MechWarrior and BattleTech and this franchise that I've loved since 1984, there's no fucking way I would work for a game developer.
Sure. Yeah. And then so I got a job at Tryon Worlds, which had a studio in San Diego, and that's because a couple of my managers from SOE had gone there, and she started cherry picking the people she wanted from SOE, and it just so happens all of us became free agents, so she was able to grab a lot of us.
Nice.
And I worked on a game over there called Defiance, and that was partnered up with a sci-fi show of the same name. And it was billed as this massive multiplayer looter shooter that would tie in with the sci-fi show, and like events on the game would influence the show and vice versa, which is complete shit. That's not how it worked. Anything that was done on the show trickled down to the game. The game, nothing in the game influenced the show. That was window dressing. That was just window dressing.
Yeah.
And then I worked there from 2011 to 2013, and they shut the doors on the San Diego studio.
Gotcha.
Because Defiance just wasn't doing well.
Yeah. So now when they shut the doors on that, were you thinking, I want to stay in this industry, and were you looking for another job? Or what?
I interviewed. I tried to create a position at High Moon Studios. They were hiring a bunch of QA people, and I begged the question, well, because by that time over at Tryon, I was the quality assurance. I was the assistant lead on the Defiance team. And then I was the lead on the End of Nations team, which was a short little like MOBA that didn't take off.
Gotcha.
So I basically I put practices that I learned into play and created a QA workflow on a team. So I had experience managing people and managing workflows. So when I heard that High Moon was hiring a bunch of people to start QA testing like a port over to, I don't know, they were porting a Call of Duty game for like either next gen or reverse gen. I can't remember which one.
Gotcha.
But talking to the talent or the headhunter there, I was like, well, who's going to be the lead? Who's going to direct these people? And she's like, well, we don't really have that position filled out. And I go, well, I'll come over there and do that for this much money, you know, because I've been doing that already. Like, I don't want to be a tester. I don't want to go backwards. And she's like, oh, well, I'll inquire about it and I'll get back to you. And she got back to me and was like, oh, yeah, they're not hiring for that. They're just hiring a bunch of testers. And then I heard like 2 or 3 months later that one of my friends that I worked with at Tryon got hired as a QA lead over there. So I don't know. Whatever. I interviewed at Rockstar.
Yeah.
And I was very interested in working for them, but I wanted to not be stuck in QA because I'd been burned twice already.
Right.
And I told them as much, and they were just looking for a career QA person that had no aspirations to move up or sideways. So
wow.
And I found that out from a friend that worked there. They said, yeah, once you mentioned you were interested in going into the audio department, they pretty much wrote you off.
Who would want a career in just QA? Like, I mean,
Rockstar wants to hold people in places. They don't lift people up from within, huh? It's not the Magic Kingdom everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, I mean, it is if you're at the top, but
sure.
Well, so basically, it just became too much.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to keep trying to find a job every 2 years. So,
right.
So I work for military contracting, where I have to look for a job every 5 years potentially.
But now, how long have you been with this company?
I've been with this company since 2017,
Okay.
but I've been at the base since 2014. I worked for a different company
Gotcha.
before.
Cool. Well, I wish you luck, continued success in your career, and
Thank you, man.
very jealous that you get to play the world's best submarine simulator. I remember playing some submarine games, like, what was it? Something Wolf.
Silent Hunter, maybe?
Silent Hunter. I remember that. There was something Wolf in it. But yeah, I haven't played a good submarine game in a long time.
There hasn't really been a good one, as far as I can remember. There was one on Steam that was there for a minute. I think it was U-Boat or something like that. That looked really interesting. It was World War II era.
Right.
Yeah, U-Boat, I think it's called. And you can zoom in and get like this cutaway, and you're directing the guys in the boat to like fix stuff, and it looked pretty neat.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Now, you do have to stream tonight, and you do have to get to dinner. So I thought we'd cover one more topic for this time. We'll have you back again.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, I want to say Star Wars, but maybe we could do like sci-fi in general. You mentioned earlier that you're a little bit of a Star Wars fan. I would say you're an absolute fanatic.
Probably.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm a huge Star Wars fan as well. I saw it in the theaters in 70. I know it came out in 77, but I feel like it wasn't until 78 that I saw it in the theater.
Okay.
And it was back then, obviously nobody knew what the hell Star Wars was.
Yep.
It was total word of mouth. I remember everybody was all of a sudden talking about it. I started cutting out the clippings from the newspaper, all the different advertisements for it, because it looked so cool. And I remember saving all those. We went and saw it in the theater, and, it was a huge line wrapped all the way around the block. And it changed my life. Star Wars changed my life. I absolutely fell in love with the franchise, collected all the figures and toys, everything that I could, and was absolutely addicted to episode 4, 5, and 6. Let down big time by 1, 2, and 3, which I've learned to reappreciate now that I have a daughter.
Yeah.
And similarly wasn't as into 7, 8, and 9, especially 9. But again, I've learned to appreciate it because I'm watching it through the eyes of my daughter, who's totally, just within the last month or so has become addicted to Star Wars. So tell me your feelings about Star Wars. Would you agree that you're a fanatic?
I mean, fan comes from fanatic. So yeah, I mean,
Is there any franchise or anything like that you are more into than Star Wars?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So when the movie comes out, for example, episode 9 that just recently came out, you saw it 3 times in the theater, right?
In 3 times in as many days, yes.
Okay, dude, you're a fanatic.
Well, there was reasons for that. So the first time we
course.
saw it was because that was opening, early release. So I'm going to see it that day, obviously.
Did you dress up?
I did not.
Okay. Okay.
I don't do that.
You don't?
Much.
Okay. Wait. What?
I mean, like Halloween. I was a Jedi this Halloween.
Okay, cool.
Are
you part of that stormtrooper?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. What are they called again?
The 501st.
Knew the name. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, of course I did. Anyway,
That's easy.
Yeah. I mean, Comic-Con every year is here. So
Right.
We went because we had opening night tickets and we had friends in from out of town.
Gotcha.
And they're fans also, and they're like, hey, we're gonna be there that night. Let's all go together. And we're perfect. So we went Thursday night, and then my good friends who we often go see all the Marvel movies with, and their kids, because then they go after the movie's over, they want explanations on stuff. So because I'm also sort of a comic book guy, like I'll explain what I know based on old comic books, but there's a lot of new stuff going on. But so we go see Marvel movies with them and their kids, and they're like, hey, if we buy you tickets to Star Wars, can you come tonight? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to say no. So we went again.
Right.
And then we found out that my girlfriend's cousin was in town Saturday, and he's like, I want to see the new Star Wars. You guys want to go? Okay, we'll go. So that's the reason why we went 3 times.
So did it get better every time?
It got easier to watch.
Okay.
It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it. The newest one. Yep. I understand why people are completely outraged, but I wouldn't say that I agree with them, right? I get it. And I don't think anybody's real off base. But there's some stuff in there where I was just like, I guess, there's some high points, but Yeah, I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
I think after the outrage that came with episode 7, I learned to basically just be okay with not like I've told you before, episode 4, 5, and 6, I feel like were my Star Wars. That was I was the right age, and the movies just did it for me. And so where I'm at now, I'm able to watch them and enjoy them with my daughter and my family or whatever. But I don't feel the same outrage. I just don't, it's just a freaking movie. And there's no formula, you can't just because you have the rights to make a Star Wars movie doesn't automatically mean that the movie's going to be amazing. There are humans writing it and making it. I understand all the issues people had, whether it's like pushing an agenda or, maybe Kathleen Kennedy and people have issues with her focus and what she's trying to do or whatever. Yeah. But I've kind of just let it go, basically.
Same.
Yeah. And and it's cool because there's surprises. Rogue One, man. I freaking loved that movie, so I think there's still good things to come, and there'll be some stuff that's just like, meh, wasn't the worst thing, wasn't the best thing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
So, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, it wasn't completely terrible in my opinion, but it wasn't, ooh, that you have to see this.
It wasn't, it wasn't Robot Jocks, but it wasn't
Empire. Hey, hold on a second. I love that movie.
You got to understand.
How dare you?
When I saw Robot Jocks in the theater.
Same here. I did too.
I was absolutely just smitten and, neck deep in Battletech. Yeah. And so I wanted a Battletech movie.
Yeah.
And why I had those expectations, I have no idea. They didn't say, hey, this is a Battletech movie.
No.
So I went to it wanting that, and it was just too campy and whatever. Now I appreciate it these many years later.
It's so good. It's like so terrible. It's so good.
Yes, it's one of those movies.
I love it.
Now, out of all the Star Wars movies, obviously most older people say Empire's their favorite. Is that your favorite? Or
no.
What's yours? Okay,
I go back and forth between New Hope and Empire because obviously like Darth Vader is my favorite character from the franchise, but New Hope was my introduction, and that one holds a lot of more sentimental value to me, like a lot of the scenes, a lot of the music, because it's the first time I'd seen any of that stuff, right?
Dude?
So like, I mean, to this day, if I hear Binary Sunset, I will tear up or goosebump or something, just because there's two reasons for that. The movie, but Binary Sunset is what was playing while you're creating your Star Wars Galaxies player. And there's like certain music cues in the movies that I equate with moments of Star Wars Galaxy. Loading screens. Yeah. Or when the mood would change on the planet, a certain music note would hit. And then you hear it in the movie, and I'm like, dude, it's all it's so great. So yeah, I love Empire Strikes Back because that's when you're like, it's all awesome. And to quote Clerks, it ends on such a downer. Yeah. But I think New Hope's my favorite because it was the genesis of my Star Wars fandom.
It was such an exciting time at the end when they're all celebrating and they're doing, putting the medals on. It was such a good feeling. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I love 4, 5, and 6. All three of them, man, were just like amazing and changed my life and definitely gave me an interest for the rest of my life. I can hear my daughter just turned on another episode of Clone Wars. She's going through the Clone Wars. I kept telling her, you got to watch Clone Wars. Got to watch Clone Wars. Yep. Now she's like, oh my gosh, there's so many of these episodes. She's excited because she gets to watch them forever. So
I watch Clone Wars in kind of an abbreviated format because there are a lot of filler episodes, and it's for kids, and I had to keep that in mind when I was watching. It's like these aren't adult themes or stories. Like the stuff I want to see happens, but there's all those like little fun, whimsical episodes in between a lot of that.
I think she's really into Anakin. Personally, that's what I'm thinking. But,
And then I watched Rebels.
Yeah, really good.
I liked Rebels a lot too. So I got to work my way through Resistance, which is now on.
That's a new one, right?
Yeah, it's a newer, like 3D animated looking one. And then, I mean, obviously, everybody loved Mandalorian for the most part.
It was great.
Yeah,
Not-
I look
not
forward to what's
perfect, but it
coming.
was great.
I look forward to what's coming.
Okay, so you said Darth Vader's your favorite Darth Vader scene?
From what era?
Anything. What's your just favorite Darth Vader scene? You know
Okay,
what mine is, right? Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yours is. I'm gonna guess yours is in Rogue One.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I think that's the easy answer.
I know it is, and I'm that kind of person. I'm very shallow and very basic, so that's my
That's
easy
not
answer.
what I was. That's not what I was getting.
You're
at,
gonna get a deeper pull. What is your favorite scene?
I mean, when the father reveal, dude, like the way he is pleading to Luke, almost not demanding, not being scary, but
And
the way
Luke's
he's standing there
response?
talking to him. Not even. I don't care so much about Luke. It's just the way that Vader's trying to manipulate him. Like, dude,
Yeah.
we can overthrow this dude. He's seen it. You can become powerful. If you join me, we'll be awesome. That's one. But dude, Jedi Fallen Order, the game that just came out.
Right. Haven't played.
So I don't want to spoil it for you, but
I will play it.
dude, there's a scene in there where I was just like, oh my god, this is
So wait, when does that take place as far as the timeline?
at 5 years after episode 3, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So 3 and
I'm
4,
type-
interesting.
Hold on, I'm typing.
Yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
about that.
No, it's okay. The father reveal, I still remember the shock in the theater, dude. Like, I feel like today, if somebody hasn't seen Star Wars, they already know that because it's just Luke, I am your father. You know, everybody knows that. Or
Right.
I'm your. That's not even the.
I know you quoted
exact-
it wrong. I wasn't
yeah.
gonna call you out on it, but you did.
It's like everybody quotes, Han Solo going, "Don't get cocky, kid," and that's not what he says.
right.
But the quotes evolve. It's like the telephone game. But anyway,
Sure.
everybody knows it because people say that all the time. The reveal in the theater, man, it was like
Shock, huh?
insane
Yeah.
shock. Like, no freaking way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was big.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, yeah.
so
I didn't see it in theaters, so I didn't get to see that. But
Yeah, I remember just like being beside myself. Now, so it is in between episode 3 and 4. The video game is Fallen Order.
Yeah. It's like because it's after Order 66 happens.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's loosely between those two movies. I don't remember exactly what year or what timeline.
So there's a Vader scene in there that I've got to see, basically.
Dude. Oh, I mean, it's in my VODs if you want to see it. It's
Okay, I will. I'll look that up.
Oh.
Now, yeah, my easy answer was Rogue One. I think that was the way Darth Vader was always meant to be, which was terrifying.
yeah,
Now,
super terrifying. Yes, that was a
super
great
terrifying,
scene. Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So
I will agree that scene's awesome.
yeah, good stuff. All right, man. Well, I've kept you for longer than we were originally planning. You got a stream tonight, so
It's all good.
good luck with your stream.
Thank you.
Enjoy some food. Thank you so much for being here, dude.
Dude, thanks for having me.
I feel like we got to do it again. So
I'm down. Anytime you want, you let me know.
we will, and of course, I will see you in space in Elite.
Yeah.
And make sure all of you out there, if Joe's piqued your interest at all in any of these things, he's a super cool dude. You're going to enjoy his stream. So go.
I'm okay. I'm all right.
No. I'll toot your horn, man. Your trombone.
Hey, yeah, toot my trombone.
Check him out, twitch.tv/apostle_OFC. Just go check him out. Super good guy. Thank you for being here, Joe. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, man. You too.
And I'll
Hopefully we'll see you
soon.
on the stream, right?
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers.
This podcast is supported by you, the viewer. Please consider supporting us in the following ways. You can subscribe to our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/NGNGTV. You can become a podcast patron at patreon.com/NoGutsNoGalaxy. You can shop on Amazon using our affiliate link, which you can find at our website at NoGutsNoGalaxy.net. And you can shop our new merch store featuring our new NGNG logo at NoGutsNoGalaxyStore.com. This was your local No Guts No Galaxy MechWarrior podcast. Signing off for tonight, this is Daeron, and until next time, MechWarriors.
It'd be best if you avoid me, but I know you probably can't. You sense something is wrong with me. You can feel it on my skin, but there is more with it. Maybe I can be closer now, but I don't know how. Please you probably thought it was normal, just a little off. The truth is, at one time I was, but now I'm a robot. Forever disconnected from you. Maybe I could be closer now, but I don't know how. Please help me remove my metal skin, my metal skin, my metal skin, and the wires within. My metal skin, my metal skin, my metal skin, and the wires within.